Okay, everybody, and welcome again to the AC's Jeremy Plays Kerbal Space Program. Just getting everything set up real quick. Okay. And we're picking up from where we left off last night. Okay, if you'll remember last night, we were shooting for Ike to go and explore this one. And we failed utterly. Well, we managed to get to space around Duna, but didn't manage much past that. But now we've got some new tech to work with. So we're going to go ahead and rebuild our Ike Explorer with that new tech. Yeah, there we go. Bring up the Ike Explorer here. And everything from there down goes away now, because we now have access to the bigger engines. It's not wanting to cooperate with me at the moment, but okay. Okay. So we're going to set up our terminal stage to be pretty close to what it was before. But as far as our transorbital stage goes, we're going to want something that can get us there. So, lift her up a little bit more. She'll need it. Okay. So now this one, we're going to be using a poodle on. It's the more efficient of the larger engine stages here. So next things next is we need to introduce another staging system. So we're going to add, let's see, 4 more of these, actually 8 more of those, and then we're going to go for the skipper engines. Okay. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and add just the full 3 fuel tanks per skipper. Then we need to add those so that we can then add these and actually have some aerodynamics to work with there. And also we're going to need some control surfaces, keep us stable on the way up. And then we have the inevitable boosters. Only now we've got the really fun ones to work with. As before, all that we had was the wimpy little thumpers. Now we've got the kickbacks. And having those suckers will actually make this a much more capable craft when it comes to launching. Okay. So I'm actually going to drag these skippers down here so that they fire along with the solid rocket boosters. But then the boosters can be sloughed off when they're done, and the skippers when they're done. And then we'll be on to the poodle. Then we can get rid of that and use the terrier for our final maneuvering stages. Okay. And of course, I'm really tempted to go ahead and add some solid rocket boosters up here just to make sure, but unless I dialed them down to just an insane degree, they would be entirely too powerful. And now comes the structural reinforcing, because otherwise this top part's just going to flop around like all get out. So that should actually help to keep the top part from flopping around for as long as we need it to. And then going to add some structure in here to keep these things from flopping around too much. And I'm trying to avoid putting anything above our fins so that hopefully they won't get torn off whenever we eject a stage here. Okay. That looks like it might do it. So let's see what happens. This is our Ike Explorer 2. And launch. Now, since I am using the skippers to start with, I'm going to go ahead and turn my engines up to full, turn on my SAS, and go for it. But I'm going to be keeping an eye on exactly how much thrust I'm getting out of this whole system, because that's going to be an important thing as far as making sure that I've actually got enough thrust to keep me going for a while. As you can see, the solid rocket boosters are just burning through their fuel really fast, while our liquid fuel systems are actually doing pretty good here. Coming up on 2 Gs of acceleration. And still doing pretty good, actually. This thing's rather stable. Yeah, I know I sound really wonderfully surprised at this point. It's because I am. Okay, still heading for Ike. Yeah, we're about to lose a good bit of that thrust as soon as we lose our kickbacks. But we can now cut those. Figures. Yeah. I'm actually going to revert that one just to, because I do not want to lose all that bloody fuel. How can I fix that? How can I fix that? How can I fix that? Let's see what we've got here. Let's see. Honestly, I don't know how to fix that problem is the worst thing. I'm wondering. Deployment speed at home. Wondering if this won't work. pop those up with these, and hopefully they'll fire and pull the solid rocket boosters away, since I don't currently have the ability to push them off. That's a later upgrade, unfortunately. So let's try this one more time. Okay. Engines all the way up, SAS on, and fire. We're going up again. Come on, come on. You can do it. Okay, yeah, that got us where we needed to be. Okay, now I'm going to start turning us so that we're thrusting to the east here. That way we can set up a proper orbit. And she actually looks pretty darn stable at this point, which is definitely a good thing to have. Gonna try to match, or actually go just inside of prograde, so we can keep extending our orbit as far as possible. You can see the engine shifting as I try to, or as I put in inputs to adjust course here. And now we are out of the atmosphere. Still thrusting good. And these suckers are actually producing a pretty good thrust and not using fuel too quickly. Of course, they've also got a lot of fuel in them, so that helps. Okay, gonna go to strictly map view now. Try and keep an eye on this. Once again, just trying to set up a standard orbit before we make a push for the outer system. Our current acceleration is actually around, 2 Gs, so it's really not bad. Yeah, probably gonna have a engine cut off sometime. Yep, right there. So, I actually want to get facing prograde, if we can. It would be nice. Yeah, without the engines to help out, it's really hard to maneuver this thing because of the limited control systems I have. Yeah. And now, of course, you see how floppy it can get. Okay, maximum acceleration is not all that great, but it should be enough. And it will get better as we continue to lose weight in the form of fuel. Okay. Go ahead and set our target here. As of right now, I am just going to point at Duna and thrust for it. Because given where we are in the orbit, that should actually help to extend it out properly in that direction. But I don't think we're going to be getting any help from either the Mun or Minmus on this one. So, we'll see what happens. I'm pretty much pointing directly across the horizon here. And sooner or later I'm actually going to have to bother cleaning up all of this debris. Apparently I got 8 pieces of debris sitting around out here. That's actually a really simple thing to do. You just go into your tracking station and clean it all up. Okay. Yeah, it looks like I'm actually in a good spot to begin this right now because I've got Duna coming up here, so I should be able to slip on out there, hopefully. Best laid plans and all that guff. Okay. And we're about to actually have a somewhat proper orbit here. It's almost scary. Come on. And we no longer have to worry about dragging atmosphere if we decide to come back around. Cool. That's always a useful thing. Passing 3 million meters at our apoapsis right now. And continuing to turn our orbit. Although pretty soon it won't actually be turning because I'll be facing directly prograde. So I'm just continuing to thrust directly at Duna. And got about a half G going right now. It's not bad. Yeah, now our apoapsis is really starting to grow. Gonna cut back on the throttle a little bit, just so that when we do get an escape vector, we'll actually be able to take a look at it and see what kind of orbit it's going to give us. There we go. Okay. We're actually on a good plane right now, but let's see what happens to that vector if we continue thrusting prograde. How very interesting. If we continue thrusting prograde, see, that's a weird orbital adjustment there. So we can't thrust strictly prograde to get the better orbit we're looking for here. Yeah, that's not so bad. Give myself a little bit of thrust, I might be able to adjust this a good bit better. Yeah, there we go. Okay. It's pretty much where we want it to be, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this maneuver node. And yeah, she's still flopping back and forth trying to steady down. And yeah, the escape's actually getting closer and closer to us now. You can see what our orbit's doing here. It is actually starting to extend outward a little bit. Come on now. You can do it. Okay. I'm just going to warp to my exit point, and then we can figure out what exactly we need to do from there. Okay. Now that we have exited the influence of Kerbin, we can start planning this out appropriately. Okay. That's still not too terribly bad. is actually almost beautiful there. Nope, wrong way. Still wrong way. Man, come on. Give me a break here. Okay. That is the wrong way. That is, on the other hand, a hell of a lot of thrust to have to add. But we'll see what happens. Ugh, wrong button. Okay, get rid of that maneuver there. As I said, we'll see what happens with this. If we can actually add anywhere near the amount of thrust that we need to in order to get that kind of an intercept. Okay. Yeah. Come on now. You can get there. It's the one thing about using such a big ship is that they do not accelerate quickly at all until you start to get down to a lot less fuel. Okay, that was an interesting Eve encounter, but it didn't really help us out much. Okay, you can actually start to see the orbit moving a good bit here, starting to stretch out towards Duna. And we're up to nearly a G of thrust. And we're also almost out of fuel in this particular stage. So, yeah. Yeah. We'll have to see exactly what this leaves us with when we're done. We may actually break a G's worth of thrust here. Be nice. Okay, that looked like another Eve encounter. Okay, come on now. You can do it. You can do it. We're almost out to the point where our orbit will start to intersect Duna. And that went the last of our fuel. So, separate that section, thrust away from it a little bit, kill our engines, and take a closer look at what we need to do here. Rather surprised that it's not giving us an encounter, or at least a closest approach at intercept. There we go. Now we're starting to get it. Okay. There we go. So now we just need to point for that maneuver, and this time I'm actually going to follow my own planning instructions there. I hope. Now, according to this entire maneuver should only take us 6 minutes. So, I'm going to try to get as close as possible. Because I want to start thrusting it right around 3 minutes there. Just so I'll get the closest possible match to what I have planned out here. Ah! Figures. Okay, in that case, we just go for it. It's one of the reasons that I also don't like using maneuvering nodes, is it's really easy to overshoot them. But at least we had our target point. We're pretty steadied down on it. Plus, she won't quite wobble as badly as she did before. Yeah. So one drawback of the Terrier is it takes it forever and a day to do anything on this scale. But she also is very fuel efficient, so I'd rather have that right now. All things being equal. Come on. There's our original Ike Explorer out there. One day might end up in a rather interesting orbit, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, the orbital angle difference here really isn't enough to make it all that weird. And we're just starting to merge orbit with that of Duna. With any luck, we'll actually start to get an indication of where they should meet up. There we go. Yeah. Starting to bring it down. Okay. Passing 5 million kilometers. 4.5. 4. 3.5. 3. 2.5. Passing the ascending node there. And our angle is actually starting to look better. Passing 1 million kilometers, reducing thrust. Passing 500,000 kilometers separation, reducing thrust again. And we now have an encounter. So, now it's just a matter of waiting out the year and a bit in time warp so that we can get out there. Yeah. Trying to get an idea of when our escape is as opposed to our encounter. It's probably not going to be more than a day or so, given how fast we're going to be going at the time. Still have plenty of fuel too. Hopefully. We have a lot of fuel. Hopefully it'll be plenty of fuel. Okay. Our encounter just over 100 days away still. Yeah, I can't auto warp to that because it's so far away in a weird event. Because we'll end up with a brand new orbit after we leave, because you don't really encounter a celestial body without it influencing you. Okay. Huh. Actually looks like we have better than a day in between encounter. Actually, 2 days. Cool, we'll have 2 days to work with. Means we must not be doing all that much weirdness at this point. Okay, can I actually get it to warp me? Nope. There we go. Now I can get it to auto warp. Only the last 20 minutes or so, but that works. Okay. Now, gonna set Ike as our intended target, and this time we're actually coming in with a similar orbital path to Ike. So that will help out a great deal later on. But first we have to actually manage a Duna orbit. Oh joy. Yeah, this is going to be fun. Our orbit is going to be so far off angle when we do finally manage to get an orbit, that is. And there goes our orbital pathing outside of the influence of Duna, doing weird stuff. Yeah. Actually, let me see what it's going to take to really get us kind of orbit that we're hoping for here. Hmm. It does look like a nearly constant retrograde push will get us a similar orbit to the one we're looking for. At over 50 degrees off angle, but hey, that can be dealt with. So, in that case, we just push retrograde. And once again, get to pray that we have enough fuel to actually push this thing right. Okay, that's a little bit weird. Our periapsis appears to be increasing at this point, while our speed is dropping like all get out. Okay, there we go. Periapsis is finally starting to fall off. Might be the fact that I was just a little bit off a retrograde. Almost wonder what would happen if I did come to a complete stop relative to Duna. Because that's what it's looking like it's going to want me to do. At which point I then just get to start falling towards the planet. I've got just over a G's worth of thrust right now, and yeah, it looks like it just wants me to come to a complete stop relative to the planet. Joy. Throttle down a little bit, so when it does finally give me an orbit, I'm not too far off here. I can stop the adjustment, waste as little fuel as possible. Okay, that's almost... Ugh. That's giving me the possibility of an Ike intercept right there. Okay. I'm actually going to warp to there and see if I can't use being closer to the periapsis to bring this orbit around a little bit better. There we go. Okay. Ugh. I hate it when it does that. Okay. That's a descending node, which means that I'll need to be thrusting normal, and that's anti-normal. So let me go and find normal. There we go. There's normal. And I just passed it. Okay. So yeah, find normal here, get to the descending node, and adjust my orbital plane so I am better facing towards Ike. And that milestone is probably I just entered orbit around Duna. Okay. I'm going to warp down this way and then thrust normal. Yes. Crap. Chase normal. Chase normal. Watch the orbital projection do really friggin' weird things. And apparently I've got an Ike encounter in 13 minutes. So, Yeah, let's just warp to the Ike encounter and figure out what happens after that. Oh yeah, apparently I'm going to be hitting Ike. Joy. Where in the blazes is my prograde? Nope, that's retrograde. Okay. Now let me figure out what I need to add to that in order to get... Yeah, there we go. Actually, apparently I don't even need... Okay. No, other way. First, let's ensure that we're not going to slam into the planet, and then we will actually work on getting ourselves an orbit. Or moon. Planetoid. Whatever. Yeah, I'm leaning just a little bit retrograde, so hopefully I'll be able to have an actual orbit after this is all said and done. Okay, 26 kilometers is actually more than enough for what I need there. So let me start bringing it back down, and hopefully I'll be able to get an actual orbit out of this without having to spend too much fuel. Trying to dance it back and forth across 25 kilometers periapsis here. Whole time getting closer and closer to actually having an Ike orbit. Because that's the first part of this contract, is I have to achieve orbit around Ike. Man, this would actually be a really nice gravity assist if I was trying to land on Duna. Wouldn't it? Unfortunately, I'm not trying to land on Duna. Oh, come on. Must we keep playing these games? There we go. Now we finally have an orbit. Achieve orbit of Ike. Then enter the orbit of Duna, flyby of Ike, enter orbit of Ike. Okay. So now we need to transmit or recover scientific data from space around Ike. So the first thing we're going to do is log temperature, which is going to give us 20 science on its own. And we get a milestone plus the science recovery. So, next step is of course landing on Duna. Now what I really want to do is try to come around and land on the day side here, just like I did with the other, with, I think it was Minmus a while back. So I really want to come around to someplace like this. One, so I can adjust my apoapsis there. And hopefully get it to the point where I can start looking at coming down on the surface of Ike, but preferably on the day side. And I'm really hoping when it's not in the shadow of Duna. That would suck if I had to come down in the shadow of Duna. But it seems like Ike has even less atmosphere than, or even less, sorry, not atmosphere, mass, gravity, there we go, than Minmus does. Although they might be about the same. I really don't know off the top of my head. And if they are, then we've practically already done this before. And I just need to land a robot probe on Ike. What's my current altitude anyway? It's only 65,000. Okay. Now that actually looks pretty darn good there. So I'm going to warp around to there. Yeah, we're not doing too bad. Once again, find retrograde. Yeah. Gonna get a little bit closer. Okay. Get to retrograde again and then start thrusting for all we are worth in order to slow down. And maintaining retrograde thrust. And retrograde's going to start running from me. Okay. Let's take a look at this. Yeah, we got a pretty good landing site here. I'm going to switch over to surface velocity tracking. That way we can actually see what we're doing relative to the surface of Ike. And what I more or less want to get here is just straight vertical momentum. I want to eliminate all of my lateral motion. That way I'm coming straight down. Entered suborbital spaceflight above Ike. Cool. Still got plenty of fuel for this maneuver. I'm not really too terribly worried about it right now. Okay, I'm just going to cut all thrust and let us kind of build up a little bit of speed here. One, because we can very easily counteract it, and two, because we are still 20 kilometers off the surface of this particular planetoid. So we actually need to make it down, or if we want to make it down in a decent period of time, then we're going to need to let ourselves accelerate a little bit. But since we have nearly vertical motion here, all of that acceleration goes strictly into getting us down. And again, I forgot to get rid of that thing. I oftentimes do. Yeah, as you guys can see, having those bigger engines and fuel tanks and everything to start with there really does help us have plenty for this far end, but not by much. Mainly because you're pushing a lot more weight to start with. Okay, now throttle up and start slowing ourselves down. You notice it's a lot harder now because we're a lot closer to Ike. So we're actually feeling the planet's gravity a lot more. Throttle up a bit more, cut some more of our speed down because we're about to pass 10,000 meters. For some reason we're starting to pick up some lateral motion here, which is not a good thing. So yeah, let's try and bring us back to... Oh, I suppose that nose cone finally fell back down. Or finally hit the surface, I should say. Yeah, just remember, everything goes boom in this game. You're riding ships made of explosions. So it's a lot like a Michael Bay movie where everything goes boom. Okay. Now once again, given the angle of... Wait a minute, where's the sun? Ah, there it is. Ah, actually, we should be able to see a shadow before too much longer here. Yeah, there it is. Our shadow. Okay. Speed's coming down nicely. But we are still picking up some of that lateral motion. I have no idea as to why. I suppose the ship might be out of balance. trying to keep our speed down to less than 5 meters per second so we don't blow anything off when we hit the surface. Okay. And now we have successfully landed on Ike. And our communicatron is even sticking straight up, or more or less straight up. So I'm going to go ahead and extend this sucker so we can start communicating all of our wonderful science back to Kerbin. And that's 70 science right there from the materials bay. And then we have the mystery goo container, which gives us another 24. So we should get well over 100 science from this, considering that we also just finished out that mission. Then log temperature, and that's 32 more. So yeah, there's actually a good bit of science just from achieving that mission, because it's stuff that we didn't know before. So now let's check all of this out. Successfully explored Ike, recovered land, we've landed on the surface of Ike. Sweet. And now, in all honesty, as long as it's daytime, oh, I can turn off the SAS there. As long as it's daytime, this probe should actually stay pretty well charged. And we're going to go back to the Space Center. And you'll notice how much science we now have. So let's consider what we actually want to spend that on. I have electrics, guys. That's weird. Something's glitched there because it's not letting me get the advanced electrics. Okay. Now let's see here. Trying to consider what may be the better option at this point. Oh, I know what's up. I have to upgrade my research and development facilities because, yeah, now that stuff is opened up. Because it only lets you spend so much on any given item until you've upgraded that. Yeah. So the choices are actually kind of far and wide here. That's really something that I should be looking at getting sometime soon, is this Sepratron, because it allows you to push components away from your ship whenever you're activating it. Can be extraordinarily useful. Okay. Let's see. Advanced construction. Not really. Propulsion systems, this is all small engines and actually a fairly small fuel tank. It's meant for more landers and that you intend to recover. There's the advanced grabbing unit, which basically it's an arm. It lets you reach out and grab a hold of things and is actually useful for certain other missions. I still wish I could go ahead and get that, but I can't yet. Landing stuff. Let's see. Advanced flight control. It might be nice to have RCS thrusters, or at least the advanced inline stabilizer, but I'm really trying to push to getting more science at the moment, because that's what's going to start unlocking the rest of this. So I'm actually going to go to start with getting more power, because that's going to be the first thing. And then this eventually leads to the mobile processing lab, which is one of the most important things as far as from a scientific standpoint. So I'm going to go for that next. And of course, getting space exploration unlocks the next level of command modules, which are all really useful things to have. So let's take a look at mission control and figure out what we've got here. Gilly, surface of Duna, sun. I actually don't think that I have one on the surface of the Mun. Yeah, there it has me testing the kickbacks again. Okay. Well, I hope everybody's had fun tonight, seeing me actually succeed at getting to Ike. And I will be back tomorrow night with Sakura Dungeon. So, everybody, hope you have a good night. Bye.